Hi makers, we are back with 2 more ribbon Kahoa style leis. This has been one of our biggest requests and we're excited to show you how these leis turned out. Don't forget to subscribe so you can follow along for more lei and craft tutorials. We're going to start with our ribbon base that is cut to look like tea leaf. Both of our ribbon leis today will use this base. I am using this green ribbon as my tea leaf base and I am going to cut it into 10 to 11 inch strips by wrapping it around a piece of cardboard cut to my desired length. After wrapping it a few times, I will cut each side to make my individual pieces. You will need 50 to 60 feet of ribbon for your base and the width I used was 1 3/8. These green ribbons will be attached to my braided twine. I'm using the twine that I used to make fresh leis, but jute twine would work as well. I braided 3 strands of twine. I make my kahoas based on the size of the recipient. My women's kahoas are about 30 inches long and men's are 32 to 36 inches long. I add 3 to 4 inches on each side to tie on the kahoa, so this finished lei will be 30 inches, but my twine will be 38 inches long. I'm going to create my tea leaf base by knotting it onto my twine with a girth hitch. I am placing the ends of my ribbon together pointing up. With your green ribbon under your twine, pull your ends through the loop, making the girth hitch. I found it easiest to use a weight to keep my twine in place, and after knotting the ribbon, wiggle the ribbon from side to side to tighten the knot. Continue knotting your ribbon until you have your desired length. I want to talk a little bit about my ribbon choice for this tea leaf base. When I am making a Kahoa lei out of faux materials, I really want to mimic and represent a fresh one. Your ribbon for the tea leaf layer needs to be stiffer because when your lei is worn, it will sit and drape like a fresh lei. If you use the softer ribbon for this layer, it will drape much differently. I have several videos coming up that are going to be Kahoa leis made from a variety of faux materials and artificial flowers. This has been the biggest request in the comments because these materials are more accessible to most people than fresh tropical flowers. As I have been looking for these materials, I am trying to find materials that give you the most beautiful finished lei that represents the beauty, respect, and love that goes into making a fresh Kahoa lei. I would recommend shopping in person at your local craft store or floral supply store so you can fill the ribbon in person. The one I used is just called double face satin ribbon and doesn't indicate in the title or description online that it is a stiffer ribbon. Some brands may also call it an acetate satin ribbon. I will link the one I used. It is from Hobby Lobby. I really like the color, width, and stiffness. It can be found online and in-store in the ribbon section that is in between the artificial flowers and wedding aisles. It should be on sale every few weeks, so don't buy it full price. After knotting my ribbon, I am going to cut the sides of each individual ribbon to create a point and cut it into the shape of a fresh tea leaf lei. My first ribbon lei uses yellow ribbon and is inspired by a fresh fall lei. I used a 3/8 width ribbon from Amazon. I will link the one I used in the description box. For the base of each yellow piece, I am using stiffened felt. I am creating a template by marking my felt at 1.5 inches and 3 inches across. At my 1.5 inch mark, I'm going to measure down 3 inches and mark it as well. I'm cutting out my triangle by lining up the edge of my felt to the point that is 3 inches down. My next cut will be from the 3 inch mark I measured across to the point of the triangle. Using this triangle template, I will trace and cut out more triangle felt pieces. For a 30 inch lei, I am using 10 triangle pieces. Our yellow ribbon needs to be cut in pieces that are about 2.5 to 3 inches. Using a piece of cardboard, measure to your desired length, wrap the ribbon around and cut both sides. Each individual piece will use 15 pieces of yellow ribbon, 150 pieces total to make this lei. Each piece of ribbon needs to be folded into shape. I'm going to place the right side on top of the left and use tweezers and a candle to keep my individual ribbon pieces in shape. Now the ribbon pieces are ready to be glued onto the felt base. I am starting with my first ribbon at the tip of the triangle. My next layer will have 2 ribbons, then 3, 4, and my last row will have 5 pieces. For your spacing, focus on the loop of the ribbon and keeping that lined up in each row. You may need to trim your last layer so that the top is flush. If you need to trim your ribbon, use hot glue to make sure your ribbon will stay in the right shape. Once I have my individual pieces done, I'm going to sew them onto my base using a needle and string. These layers can be difficult to sew through. I carefully push my needle to my table to apply more pressure to get through some of the layers. My last step is to cover the top layer of each felt piece and the string that I used to sew them on. Use 1 or 2 pieces of ribbon across the top of the triangle. I finished the edges by adding a dab of hot glue and folding it behind the felt piece. My next ribbon lay is going to use ribbon roses styled after a tea leaf rose. This technique can be used to make ribbon roses of any size and used to finish lays. I'm using a wider ribbon to make a bigger rose since it is the main part of my lay. I used ribbon 1.5 inches wide, cut into strips about 20 inches long. This lay needs 20 to 22 ribbon roses. I used hot glue to make these roses. I would also recommend fabric glue or E6000 glue. When using hot glue, we want to use small dabs, otherwise we will have white residue that will be visible on the finished ribbon rose. I am going to place some glue at the end of the right of the ribbon and fold my ribbon down. Starting at the end of my ribbon, which is at a diagonal, I'm going to roll my ribbon following this diagonal line. About halfway up, I will add a dab of glue to keep things in place. This is creating the center of my rose. Once I roll about 3/4 of the way up of the diagonal edge, I'm going to fold this last edge backwards. I am pinching the stem of the rose with my right hand and keeping the edge I folded in place with my index finger. This is the transition from the center of the rose to creating the layers of the rose. Add a bit of glue to keep everything in place. To create the next layer of the rose, I am using my left hand to flip the ribbon under itself and place it under the rose. My right hand will hold the tail and rotate slightly, keeping new layers in place with my index finger. I am adding glue to keep things in place after every 2 ribbon turns made with my left hand. By slightly rotating with my right hand, I am forming the layers of the rose. Once your rose is the desired size, trim the excess ribbon and glue the end of the ribbon on the bottom of the rose. Lastly, I'm using a lighter to seal the end of the ribbon and the center of the rose that we trimmed. I am adding a layer using a similar shape as our yellow ribbon lay using this gold 3/8 ribbon cut into 5-inch pieces. I'm going to glue these ribbons into place instead of using the candle like our first lay because I want my loop to sit lower. I'm going to glue these directly onto my ribbon base, making sure that the loop will sit right below my ribbon rose. I am attaching my ribbon roses with needle and string. I am sewing through the layers to hide my string. You can also hot glue the roses on. It is faster but may not be as sturdy as sewing them on. Here are a finished ribbon Kahoa style lace. Let us know in the comments which ribbon lei was your favorite, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Check out this tutorial for another ribbon lei you can make using this same ribbon base.